This is the newly launched Omoda C7 and its front end kind of reminds me of the Lexus RX. I wonder why. And today we've got the 1.6 litre Luxury, which is the base model of the C7 range. And I want to invite all German manufacturers to this review just to come and have a look at what a base model should come spec'd with from factory. So I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about the C7's practicality, its features. Tell me a joke.
Sorry, this function is not supported.
I'm going to drive it and tell you how dynamic it is on the road, and then tell you how much it'll cost to run on a monthly basis. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Car Talks. Power, precision, performance. We are back at one of the friends of the channel, and that is Omoda Jaecoo Woodmead, who are part of the Hatfield group that we work with. And shout out to Sello for lending us the car. The Omoda C7 essentially slots in between the smaller C5X and the larger C9, both in terms of its size and its pricing. And in terms of its proportions, the C7 ordinarily competes with the Kia Sportage, VW Tiguan, Toyota RAV4 and Haval H6 to name a few, and even something like the Jaecoo T1 that has recently entered the South African market. The base model is powered by a 1.6-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which pushes out 145 kilowatts and 290 newton-meters of torque. Power is sent to the front wheels only via a 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox. Curb weight comes in at a smidge under 1.6 tons, with an overall length of 4.6 meters, which places the C7 right in the middle of this segment. The same engine is also applied to the mid-spec Elegance. However, the top-spec plug-in hybrid gets a 1.5-litre engine, which is mated to an 18.4 kilowatt-hour battery with a combined power output of 255 kilowatts. We'll review that monster early in 2026. How cool are these dancing lights? Moving on to practicality and features, you get a very generous 614 liters worth of boot capacity, which is about 38 liters less than a VW Tiguan and 40 liters more than a Jaecoo T1. Regrettably, you don't get a 12-volt socket, but you do have foldable rear seats in a 60-40 split configuration. You also get a parcel shelf and a spare wheel under the boot floor. The tailgate is, of course, electric across the entire range. Stepping into the rear, I think these leather and suede combination seats are the party trick of this vehicle, both the rear and the front seats for that matter. I mean, they look like they were lifted straight out of a Porsche Taycan, so kudos to Omoda for giving us such luxury at this price point. And we're still going to talk about the pricing a bit later in the video, but for now, back to the rear cabin. You get a center armrest with 2 cup holders, and this is probably the longest I'll ever spend talking about cup holders in my entire life, but are these not the most gorgeous cup holders you've ever seen? What in the Range Rover is happening here? As I slot in my monster, now I just need a chauffeur. You get ISOFIX anchor points to safely mount your child's seat. And speaking of safety, the C7 doesn't have any Euro crash test data yet, but its older sibling, the C9, gets a 5-star Euro NCAP rating. You get 2 air vents, 2 USB ports, and because the C7 has a wheelbase of 2.7 meters, it is just legroom galore. I'm 1.78 meters tall or 5'10", and I can stretch my legs out behind my driving position. I also like the fact that you have a flat floor for the middle seat. Jumping right into the front cabin, so Omoda have gone with a very minimalist design ethos in here, and it almost gives me Tesla vibes, so I fully understand the look they were going for. Now it does look understated compared to something like a Jaecoo T1, which we recently reviewed, link in the description box below, but the sheer quality is undeniable. You've got wooden inlays, aluminium-esque window controls, suede finishes on the doors and on the dashboard. It is honestly a lovely place to be in. And I do see myself spending hours on end in here going on a road trip. Okay, so the elephant in the room, The front seats in the base model are manually operated, but of course if you go for the mid-spec elegance and above, you get electrically adjustable front seats. But even so, you still get a comfortable 6-way adjustable seat in the base model. Storage space is plentiful as we've come to expect from the Chinese. So you've got an okay sized cubby hole, you've got more storage under the armrest, which is cool because when I took my car keys out of there, they were literally ice cold. And because the gear selector is mounted to the steering wheel column, you've got more usable storage space under the center console, where you'll also find 2 USB ports and a 12-volt socket on the other side. You've got 2 cup holders, and when you're not using them at a point in time, there's a brilliant cover that gives the cabin a very flush and seamless design. You've got a placeholder for your cell phone, which is not a wireless charger in the base model, but you do get a wireless charger from the Elegance model and upwards. I wish this area had a cover as well, as I'm not a fan of these exposed phone chargers. You've got a 15.6-inch infotainment system that comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So same screen size as on the Jaecoo T1 and T2. As always, I'm not a fan of these big screens, but at least on this one, you have this panel at the bottom of the screen with all of the necessary shortcuts. So things like home menu and climate control are static and their buttons never change position. You have a choice of 3 drive modes from which to select on the infotainment screen, namely Eco, Normal, and Sport mode. However, you can also achieve this via a physical shortcut button. The infotainment also has an intelligent voice command that can't tell jokes. Hello, Omoda.
Please continue.
Tell me a joke.
Sorry, this function is not supported.
But it will do mundane stuff like opening your massive panoramic sunroof, which, by the way, comes as standard in the base model. Have the German manufacturers reached this point of the video? Now, I'm a sucker for all things black roof lining, of course, because it gives the interior a premium look. Additionally, you might have also come across Mercedes-Benz-esque bits and pieces in the cabin, like the gear selector and the buttons on the center console, which again extends that feeling of quality even further. You've got a rather tiny 8.88-inch instrument cluster, again keeping in line with the minimalist design, but surprisingly it contains all the necessary information you need. You've got your speed reading, fuel consumption data, and the vehicle is constantly monitoring the road ahead for any potential hazards, which you can also see in the instrument cluster. And the only anticlimax I have with this vehicle, well, apart from the exposed cell phone placeholder/charger, has to be the steering wheel design. I think I like the look of the C9 steering wheel a bit better than this one. So, you are joining me from the inside of the C7 Luxury, and in terms of driving dynamics, ground clearance is only 176mm, so it's quite a sporty SUV, and you don't sit quite as high and waft about as you would in the Jaecoo T1. So that would mean it's not much of an off-roader either, but the suspension is still compliant. It'll still glide over bumps and minor road imperfections, thanks to those high side walls in the 19-inch alloy wheels. Peak torque is available from 2000 to 4000 RPM, so it's got plenty of poke, and the dual clutch gearbox comes alive once you start to drive enthusiastically. What you will also notice in the C7 is just how much less intrusive the driver safety aids are, which is quite a different sensation to what we got from the C9 that we drove during the first half of the year. So it's quite impressive to me, at least, how quickly the Chinese are able to receive feedback from the market and apply the changes. And speaking of the Chinese, no consumer anywhere in the world goes and says, "Oh, I don't like Chinese products," without you having created that reputation for yourself. So it's quite true that your reputation precedes you, good or bad. I mean, my house was built by a Chinese developer, and I have a few qualms on the quality of the finishes, so I am on the consumer side with regards to that. But, and it's a big but, As far as the motoring industry is concerned, this will certainly go a long way in redeeming China as a global player because the quality of these products is just unimaginable. But the proof of the pudding will be in the after sales. So if you do own a recent Chinese vehicle, then write to us and let us know how it's treated you thus far. Brake towing capacity is 1.25 tons. And to put that into perspective, it's about a one-bedroom apartment worth of furniture. So you're looking at a medium-sized fridge, one queen-sized bed, one three-seater couch, perhaps a coffee table and a TV. That sort of stuff. Plus the weight of the trailer itself, of course, should get you up to about a ton, maybe even 1.2 tons at most. So if you ever need to move out of a small apartment, you can do it with the C7. Claimed fuel consumption is 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers on the combined cycle. And for the time I had the car, I was averaging about 7.9 liters in mostly city driving. So I believe the claim is highly attainable. Other highlight features include dual zone climate control, adaptive cruise control, 256 color ambient lighting, and a reverse camera. You get a choice of 5 colors from which to choose, and this one is finished in khaki white, but my favorite color is matte gray. You get LED headlights with daytime running lights and intelligent high beam assist, as well as a 6-speaker Omoda sound system. The Elegance gets 8 speakers, and the top-of-the-range plug-in hybrid gets 12. Before we get to pricing and the cost of ownership, we are still on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying these videos, then do well and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so that you don't miss a single one of our epic reviews. Moving on to pricing, the range kicks off from 540,000 rands with the luxury model that we're currently reviewing. Above that is the Elegance, and that comes in at 590,000 rands, which introduces 20-inch alloy wheels with red brake calipers, electrically adjustable front seats that are heated and ventilated, and a 540-degree panoramic camera amongst other features. But the engine and power outputs are exactly the same as the base model. Above that is the top-of-the-range plug-in hybrid, and that comes in at 690,000 rands and produces a massive 255 kilowatts as mentioned earlier. But in addition to that, fuel consumption drops significantly down to 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers, and therefore it gives you a theoretical range of 1,200 kilometers. You also get massage seats and driver fatigue monitoring in the top-of-the-range plug-in hybrid. All models drive 2 wheels only, again, which further proves the point that this is more of a sporty city slicker than a complete off-roader. On finance, the base model luxury will cost you 10,200 rands a month over 6 years at the current prime interest rate of 10.25% per annum. Insurance is risk profile dependent, and the cheapest quote I got was 1,500 rands. A full tank of petrol will cost you 1,100 rands at the current inland price of 95 octane for the 51-liter fuel tank, which would then bring your total cost of ownership to 12,800 rands. I think those are very attractive numbers, to be honest, given everything you're getting in here. And the Chinese are doing to the automotive industry what Mkwanazi is doing to policing right now. Cleaning up the streets, baba. Now, there are a few detractors in the comment section whenever I post a Chinese vehicle who still feel that 500,000 rands is a bit expensive. But funny enough, when I pose the question, you're saying it's expensive in relation to what exactly, is never met with any substantiation, because I genuinely believe that your opinion must have some sort of basis, isn't it? Or something you've benchmarked it to at the very least. Name a brand new German vehicle with this level of specification that you can buy in South Africa today for 500,000 rands. I'll wait. Realistically, 500,000 rands only gets you a VW Polo in the current market. But let's engage in the comment section and let me know on what basis are you saying these cars are expensive, because I'm struggling to see it honestly. And I shall leave it there. By the way, this is the last review of the year, and thank you so much for an epic 2025. The channel's journey has honestly exceeded my wildest expectations by a mile. So, yeah, let's convene bright and early in the new year. And thank you to Sello once again for lending us the vehicle. I'll leave his details in the description box below. Thank you for watching. Until next time, happy holidays and drive safely.